Welcome to the Dan Stevens Show. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about dating apps, what they were and what they've become, also the pricing structures. I'll be telling a little story about the time I went on passport mode on Tinder, and another couple of things. We'll see what happens, but that's the general structure of today's show. It'll be a sharp one, just here by myself. Today, for the listeners, for the viewers, you can see that. For anyone on Spotify, Apple, etc., please rate 5 stars and follow and all that. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Get involved in the comments. And if anybody wants to donate, go to the Buy Me a Coffee link in the episode description. Thank you. Right, let's get down to it. It's hard to know where to start with this, but I've done my bit of research here. The main dating apps are Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. Plenty of fish. I think I did a stint on it years ago. Jesus. Was not pleasant. A lot of profiles with no pictures. Maybe it's changed now. I think they do also have now a pricing structure. And don't get me wrong. I think dating apps have their benefits, for sure. They did anyway, back when, until I think about 2017, 2018. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but they started charging and they started creating tiered pricing structures. And now it's just that they're not hiding it anymore. It came in gradually, I think, and now basically the way that these apps work, as far as I can see, as far as I've heard from friends of mine and from my own experience, is that it's pay to play. It's basically prostitution. Sorry, that's a bit far. It's not prostitution. But before I started recording here, I tried to think of what the world would be like without dating apps. A lot of my friends met their partners when they were younger. Well, I can say they're wives and girlfriends because none of them are gay. You kind of have to say partners, don't you, in case it's... Which is fine. Sorry, I'm coming off a bit of a cold, a bit of a flu here. This could get unhinged. That's what I'm saying. Excuse the pun. But the filter's gone. Dylan McDonough's gone. He was a good filter for me he'd catch me on my nonsense. So I don't know what's going to come out here. So anyway, it makes me... There's something sinister about the gradual creep of the tiers... the tiered pricing systems on these apps. And let's get into it. I mean, at the moment, if you want to be on Tinder, if you just sign up and you think, I'd love to meet someone, I'll download Tinder, and you're not aware that there's levels, pricing levels, well, I think you'd be on it. You'd get about 10 swipes, and then if someone matches with you, I think you can talk to them. I think you have a very basic level of, and they'll probably give you a couple of matches to bring you in, to keep you interested. And then you run out of swipes and it's like, oh, what am I going to do now? Okay. I have to go to Tinder Basic. That's where you get your unlimited swipes. It's about €20 a month. That's the basic one. You still don't get to see who likes you. But it's very basic. You don't get to use passport mode where you can just plonk yourself anywhere in the world, which I did before, and I'll tell you a little story about that in a little bit. Then you're on to Tinder Gold. Now you've got a bit of freedom. That's €30 per month. Now you can see who likes you first, and then you can have unlimited swipes again. You can what else can you do? I think you get a free boost every month. Oh, a boost. That means you can have your profile visible for an hour or half an hour or something. Like, why is it not visible already? You're paying 30 a month. This gets you to the top. But you're not really at the top because there's Tinder Platinum as well now. So that's in and around 40 or 50 euro per month. See, when you try and look up these prices as well, it's very, very general. It's very like, it can be between 15 to 40 a month depending on your location and your age. So they're already putting people into categories and deciding how much to charge them, which that's nice, isn't it? Isn't that lovely? So I don't know what that means either. They don't explain it, but then if you go to Tinder Platinum, you're looking at 40, 50 quid a month. You can message them before you match. Ooh. Wow, that's just stalking, is it? I don't know, like is that... Here. Swipe me right, will you? Like, what you... Message before you match. I don't see the benefit of that. It seems a bit creepy. Now, a complaint that I've heard as well is, and something that annoyed me for a while I was using the apps, was women don't have to pay. They get it for free. Which is true. But that's just by design. It's not by design. It's not planned. It's just because there's more men on the apps, I think. So in my research, I found that Tinder is about 75-25 men. So 75% to 25% men versus women. Bumble is a bit more balanced. It's about 65-35. So about 2/3 men, 1/3 women. Hinge is a bit more balanced. It's about 60-40. But this all makes sense in regards that women don't need to pay. It's supply and demand. There's plenty of randy men out there who are willing to put themselves forward. And I don't know if it's because men are just less sensitive and they can handle rejection better, or they're just more forward and I don't know what the word is. It's not predatory, but I suppose it kind of makes sense. Like in a bar situation back in the day, that would usually be the ratio anyway. I can only remember 2 or 3 times in my drinking life from the age of 17 to maybe 32 where I looked around and I was like, geez, there's more women here than men. I think it was in the gowns. Maybe the Camogie final was on that night or something. They were still in their skirts. I don't know. But as a general rule, men are more likely to use these apps, which just means that the matches just come in for the women. They just come in. So Bumble, you're looking at a similar sort of pricing range. You have Bumble Boost, which is the entry level tiered plan. It's the entry level tier. It's about €20 a month, but you can get 6 months for 60 quid. I don't know. I think on these dating apps in general, after a week, you've pretty much swiped everybody in your area, like, you know. Like, you'd want to be out near the airport waiting on new arrivals, would you? Put your radius down to 1 kilometre. If you want to make use of that 6-month thing. I don't know how you could. You can probably use passport thing as well. The passport setting. Go wherever you want. Premium, €40 per month. But you can get a week for €20. There you go. And that's the top level on Bumble. Bumble is where the women send the first message. But now I think there's prompts. So you can just write to the woman and then she responds. I think the women have the power in the app situation, without a doubt, because there's more demand for them and less supply. Kind of makes sense. High demand, low supply. They have the power on the apps. The power of love. That's what they have. Alright. Hinge. Jesus, now it gets pricey. Hinge, you're looking at... I looked up like Hinge prices, and a lot of hinges for doors came up. There were some nice ones there. A lot cheaper than the app though. So... Hinge you're looking at... So there's Hinge Plus, which is about 30 quid a month. And then you have Hinge X, which is €50 per month at least. It varies. Again, these prices all vary on age and location. And you don't get to know what way they're discriminating on that level, you know. I remember on my last online dating app run, but I went on Bumble, and I think I paid for a month, and I swear to God, I remember seeing a woman on it, and no offense to this woman, I don't know who she was, but it was a terrible picture. So she's in this, first of all I thought her legs were out, but it wasn't. It was just them pants, you know, them pants that like look see-through but they're not. I was like, Jesus. And then she had a white top on. She was local as well. She was from Blanchardstown. I think she was standing outside a pub as well, which is fine. But so she had these kind of see-through looking pants on, and then a white top, and she had a joint in her mouth. Big, you know, it was like a blunt. And honestly, she looked like a 99 ice cream. She was the same shape. And it's not my fault that thought came into my head. I just looked, the shape was like boom, boom, and then the little flake was like the blunt, you know, and I was like, who is she trying to... Like, I don't... First of all, I wouldn't go out. You know, she smokes blunts. She looks like a 99. Does she not realise that? Look, fair enough. Put a bit of strawberry syrup on her, maybe, or something. I don't know. But I remember that being the moment where I was like, I'm after paying 20 quid or whatever it was at the time for this. I was like, no. It always stuck in my mind, the old 99. Yeah. But that was my last run on it. And I remember just looking at it going, this is so soulless, like. And don't get me wrong as well, I've met some nice women on the dating apps through the years. I have. Even though it's basically monetizing loneliness. It's monetizing loneliness. It's monetizing romance. And it's monetizing taking away the adventure of, in want of a better word, the hunt, you know. I don't mean that in a predatory way. I mean the hunt as in, yeah, you know what? I'm going to get some nice clothes. I'm going to go out into town. See what happens. Be like, you know, I'm only going to have 7 points. The amount of times I ruined things because of drink, by the way. There'd be a woman interested in me in a bar, then I'd just be locked. I went through a phase where I couldn't talk properly when I was locked. And I remember some girl approached me and she was like, you know, I was watching you all night, like, and I was like, and the eyes, me and all my brothers have that trait, by the way. The eyes close when we're locked and we just go. Not too sexy. Anyway, that's your price. You're looking at, on average, like 20 to 25 a month for a basic sort of package. And then 40, 50 a month for the premium package on these apps. So Tinder and Hinge are owned by the Match Group, whoever they are. I don't know, but making massive profits, like $500 million a year or something like that. But it's going down. Bumble is owned by Bumble Inc. That's similar kind of profits. That's what you're looking at, but it is going down apparently. And I can't be sitting here. I can only talk about dating apps. I don't know what's happening in the dating world outside of this. I think people are getting pretty social again. I hope, I think that's what's happening. Young people are like, fuck the apps. And then that's the profits going down. But these people have made their money already. Maybe the popularity of the old Instagram DMs has affected the dating apps, because now, you can just request to follow someone. And then if they accept your follow request, I guess that's like a match, isn't it? Someone like that you never knew. They accept your follow request, then you send them a message in their DMs. Then if they respond, it's the exact same process as Tinder, really, isn't it? Except you can just look for who you want. So I guess I'm sure it's guys mainly, but I've had women message my DMs as well. It goes both ways. You have to remember, at the end of the day, we're animals. We'll find a way, and we'll find the cheapest way. So I would imagine the popularity of Instagram DMs, as well as maybe a bit more desire for people to be a bit more social, has affected the revenue of these dating apps. But that's what you're charging now. They've obviously, I'm hoping that they're a bit like a cornered rat, and they're just they're getting as much money as they can while they can now. Maybe that's why the prices are so high. They're like, look, we're on the way out here, so we need to do what we can while we can. And there's a loneliness epidemic, I think, as well, due to the obvious phone addiction thing. People get their kicks now from the phone rather than people. I won't talk about that anymore. I've talked about it enough in the past. We know what's going on. Awful weather out there, I will say. I was up this morning, I went out onto my road. I was like, Jesus, like Armageddon. But I do want to close my eyes. I do want to fall asleep. I just want to go back to bed. And I don't miss you, baby, 'cause I don't want to go on Hinge. Anyway, I never liked Hinge. Too much faffing about. I was always a fan of Tinder until I was banned a couple of years ago for duplicating the They don't tell you what you're banned for either. It's all very murky, And I definitely don't have a sourness in me from being banned from Tinder. No, that's not what's going on here. I was just thinking, I don't know why this talk came into my head, but Jesus, imagine if there was them old serial killers around these days. Which apps would they use? Which dating apps would each serial killer use? I'd say Ed Gein would be a good man for the Hinge. He'd play the waiting game. He'd be like, I'm into upholstery. Just got my own house. Road frontage. Next thing you know, you're a lamp. I'd say the likes of Ted Bundy and Ramirez, they'd be on Tinder. Quick swipes. Ted Bundy would be like, need a hand with a kayak. My arm is sore. Boom. Bumble. That'd be one for Alien Warnos, I'd say. Yeah, the woman texts first. She'd just be putting it out there. I'd say, hey, sweet chicks. Plenty of fish. Haven't had a stint on that. Jesus Christ. You wouldn't know who you're talking to. I was extra naive as well when I was on it. Must have been 2014 or something. Maybe earlier. Tell you, naivety and the hurting is a dangerous mix. Naivety and desperation. Next thing you know, you're out in a house in Donamead and there's a curtain twitching and nobody's coming out. Ooh. Then you just drive off. Sorry, I'm just going into a personal experience here, but yeah. Um, no, it's a murky old world out in them dating apps. I remember on Bumble as well, years ago, you used to be able to pick the ethnicity that you wanted. Like, I'm gonna be honest, it would always be like black and Latina. That's what I'd pick, depending on the season. Just the way I thought. I don't know. It was like Irish women hate me. I'm too much of a loose cannon. But the Latina and the black women like that, you know. Then they stopped all that. But I mean, that's what was on offer. You know, you could just pick anything. You could pick your height. You could pick what height you wanted. Pick the ethnicity. Nearly down to shoe size, you know, which would be good for the foot fetishists. Anyway, I'm going to finish with a little story that just came to mind. Sometimes we blank things that happened during COVID out of our minds, I think, due to trauma and PTSD. But it was the passport function on the Tinder app that reminded me of this story. So it was late 2021, it was October. The vaccine passport was in operation in Ireland, which was extremely dystopian and basically just aggressive sales pitch for the vaccine, in my opinion. Whether you agree with the vaccine or not, that's what it was. It was basically massive pharmaceutical money on the line for the government. We have massive pharmaceutical presence here in Ireland. It's all around here. It's up in the corporate parks. They're everywhere. So this industry, it was an aggressive sales tactic. That's what I think it was. I did not opt in for that. So what happened was, I was trying to get out of Ireland. I was like, my God. And I wouldn't wear a mask either. You can disagree or agree with that if you want to. But I hated my face being covered with a mask. It made me feel sick. And other people's faces, you look around and there's just no smiles. There's no facial emotion. I mean, even for the sake of safety to a level, I think it's very, very dystopian, very strange, and extremely disturbing. And I found it so disturbing, and I was like, okay, where is this not happening in the world? And I found the Dominican Republic. Now, I think it was open to travel there, but you had to get tested, you know. So I was like, right. I was still working at the time. Money was still coming in because I was going around doing electrical maintenance on empty buildings, corporate buildings around Dublin City, all American corporations. Empty buildings with full air conditioning going. You're just going in there, running their water to make sure there's no Legionella. So you're going around running all the taps to stop Legionella getting into the pipes. Full aircon, full everything. So, I mean, and then they'd come out then after supporting like sustainability and all that, you know. You're like, mate, you had your aircon on non-stop for 3 years. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, that's just a taste of the hypocrisy of some of these big businesses. Some of them are more sustainable than others and energy saving, but I guess as well they didn't know when their people would be back in the office. Some of them are still not back, but anyway, I was still getting paid. I had money coming in. I took I took like 2 weeks off or something, and I was like, right, what am I going to do here? I can't stand this. Like, going around having to show your phone to a restaurant to get into a restaurant, even though you're probably perfectly healthy. And I know a lot of it comes down to panic, but this was October 2021. We knew what it was. Fear and panic. was instilled into the people at the time. It became the new normal, and stay safe became a phrase that still lives on today. Lockdown became a phrase. That was never the thing. That was in prisons before only. Lockdown. But now it's a normal word. Yeah, these are all things that happened. And I do think, I will say, I'm not going to get caught up on this, I'll tell you the story, but I do think that the ways in that people reacted during that time were all ultimately out of love and fear. So it was the fear of what was going on, and then trying not to harm other people. Whereas some people were more worried about themselves not getting harmed. So I think it was a battle of, and others not getting harmed. So I think it was just people arguing, people fighting over. It all came from a place of love, but fear makes people act very irrationally. And when the fear is getting pumped into you every night on the news, and they're telling you the death figures, which after they tell you, most of them are inflated. But anyway, I booked a week in Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. And what I did was, in the couple of weeks before, I was on Tinder. I was getting good money, so I was on the premium. I don't think platinum was out yet. I was on Tinder Gold. Set my location to Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and I downloaded Duolingo, translator, and Duolingo, and I started learning a bit of Spanish. And I had translator on my phone as well, and I started messaging women in Dominican Republic in Spanish. And things got steamy as well sometimes. It'd be steamy Spanish talk. I was like a conquistador. I was like Antonio Banderas or Julio Iglesias, you know. My picture was me with my hair slicked back and everything, you know. Irlanda. And there might, like I say, I was at the time, you know, it's just, I wanted out. And all you needed to do was get a test, a negative test, and you could fly. So I learned a bit of Spanish, the necessary Spanish, I learned it. And booked myself a business class flight out of Dublin Airport to Dominican Republic. Direct flight. Off to the airport I went. With me suitcases on the Horton. Sorry, it's a bit vulgar. Anyway, it's the truth. Got to the airport, queuing up to get onto the flight. I produced me test, and I done the wrong one. I did an antigen test, I think it was, instead of a CPR test. No, PCR test. Where you stick that fucking thing up your nose. Touches your brain. Ugh. Where you stick that thing up your nose. I didn't do that one. So I was refused access to the flight. They wouldn't let me on. Had the wrong test. I was absolutely snapping. Oh, I was very angry at the time with everything that was going on as well. So I let loose at the people at the desk, and then I kind of went off with my tail between my legs, and I came back and I was like, look, sorry about that, will you mind just let me on, please, just let me on. They're like, no, we can't do that. So I was supposed to be flying with Air France, and I called them. It was too early in the morning. I was about 8:30 in the morning at the time, and their offices weren't open yet, so I had to wait around. And I said, you know what, fuck it. I said, I'm gonna go. I looked at the screens with all the places on them. I was like, where will I go? Fuck it, I'll go to Newcastle. So I ended up going to Newcastle in October instead of the Dominican Republic. And needless to say, slightly different weather and profile of woman there, and whatever else I was looking for. So I booked that. I just booked it. Booked the hotel. There's a great hotel in Newcastle city centre called the Royal Station Hotel, I think it was. And I got there. I remember I just needed to get away at the time. And Ireland was gone insane at this time. It really was. Because we're big news consumers. So, after I booked the flight, in the next hour, I rang Air France and I said, please, it was like, I paid like 1,500 quid or something for the flight. I really treated myself. Because there was nothing else to do. And I was still working. And they're like, okay, sir, please hang on the line. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. Sir, on this occasion, we are willing to give you a refund. It'll be back. I was like, yes, thank you. Fog on the Tyne is all mine, all mine. Fog on the Tyne is all mine. Come on. Oh. Got the flight over to Newcastle. I remember getting the train from Newcastle Airport into the city centre. Very handy. And this airport was right, the hotel was right there when you get off the train. And I looked around and everybody was walking around. No masks on. I think, England had opened back up a bit earlier than Ireland because they got caught having a party, basically. And they're like, okay, we need to open back up before the people go totally crazy at us. So, I remember walking out and the air hit me and I was like, I got this, like, involuntary sigh of relief through my whole body. I got like a shiver and a relief. I was like, and I burst into tears. I was like, oh my God, everything is open here. There was no vaccine passports. I think they went on until January, February 2022. And I'd known this. I'd looked it up about the UK, that there was none. This had all been scrapped. So I remember getting to that hotel and everything was so normal. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Spent 5 or 6 nights there then in Newcastle. And I didn't have a great time, to be honest. It's hard going around on your own at night time in the UK. I think I had a shaved head at the time as well. Yeah, I had a shaved head and I was running a lot. I was slim, I was lean with a shaved head, no beard either. I remember thinking at the time, I'm like walking around my town, I was like the green man on the traffic lights. Every time people would see me, they'd cross the road. Very, very. Now I still look intimidating, but it's in a different kind of way, Someone said to me recently that I was the first man they've ever seen who's less intimidating with their hood up. But yeah, I tried to get into Pop World one night. Went for a few beers. Tried to get into Pop World by myself. And the man was like, no mate, not tonight. You can't. Men are not allowed in here on their own. I was like, hey, what are you talking about? I said, I'll be alright. The students won't spike me. I'll be grand. I know I'm a good looking fella and all, But no, he was like, no lone men allowed in here. I was like, this is a fucking disgrace, I said. How can you do that to someone? I came all the way from Ireland. I'm supposed to be in Dominican Republic right now. And I was freezing because I was after being in Penny's getting clothes for Dominican Republic. 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, floor, t-shirt on me, you know what I mean? No 3/4 lengths though, wouldn't wear them, brutal. But yeah, I remember I got one big fuzzy lumberjack shirt, big warm one in Newcastle Market, in a market there. Other than that, it's freezing. Sure, I wasn't gonna buy a whole new suitcase, But yeah, he wouldn't let me in, and then I went back to my hotel room after being refused from the nightclub from Pop World. Fly was open. Bad pair of boxers on me as well. There was a bit of, I won't go into it. Anyway, you can see why he refused me after looking me up and down. So I'll leave it at that. I think I've given away enough information now about everything. I've given a few opinions there. People might agree with them, people might not. But they're my opinions. That's who I am. So, like, the whole plan for this episode was to just go through the pricing systems on the dating sites and how they've now monetized basically dating and loneliness for people who are, well, I don't know. Again, I just want to say, I want to emphasize that there is pluses to it, like, to the whole Tinder, Bumble thing. But I mean, my brother and his wife met on it, back when it was free, of course, years ago. So, I mean, it had its function, I think, but now it's just become pay for play. The more money you have, and the lonelier you are with the more money you have, then the more you'll pay. So that's today's episode anyway. I'll be back soon with another one. Please, again, just follow and give 5 stars on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening or watching. Subscribe on YouTube, share with your friends. Be back again soon with another guest. It's dangerous when I'm on my own because I go into opinions that are probably controversial, and I always think of what's my family gonna think when they hear this. Oh my God, But at some point you have to just release the shackles and say what you think. Everyone's allowed to have their opinion, so my friends, that is what we call democracy. Don't be afraid to have your opinion. Don't be afraid to say what you think. If you're proven wrong, so be it. If you're convinced otherwise to what you think, so be it. That's free discussion. That's democracy. That's freedom. If we don't have that, then we have nothing. Say what you think, even if it's ridiculous. Who cares? Live your life. You only get one shot at this. Nobody's going to remember anything when you're dead. So go for it. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching and listening. I love you all. Every Tuesday, 5 a.m. Every Friday, 5 a.m. 2 episodes a week. We'll be continuing. We'll be getting my ex-co-host Dylan McDonough back on soon, hopefully as well. And I'll be getting more guests on as we go, doing a few solo episodes, keeping it mixed up, keeping it interesting. And I appreciate you all. Thank you very much. And goodbye.